Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm really excited. We're trying a new recipe today. I'm gonna be making fajitas, or really my husband's gonna be cooking them out, but I'm getting the marinade ready. I've actually tried to marinate fajitas before, but it was extremely limey. Last time I didn't use a recipe. This time I'm actually gonna be following the recipe. There's one ingredient in it that I'm not quite sure about, but I'll get to that when I go over the list of ingredients. And I did wanna make a note that the first time I try something new, I follow the recipe exactly, and that way I know what to leave out or what to add the next time I make the recipe. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. For this recipe, we're going to need a 1/4 cup pineapple juice. I got pineapple tidbits. I'm gonna drain the juice out of this can and use that, and then we will have the pineapple as a side with our fajitas. 1/3 cup of lime juice. Now I think I'm gonna need more limes than just 2 for 1/3 cup, so I have some backup limes just in case I need those. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. This is the one I'm not sure about. This doesn't really scream Mexican flavor to me, but we're gonna give it a try and see how it is. A tablespoon of minced garlic. I tend to over-exaggerate the amount of garlic that I put in my recipes, so I'll just mince some up and we'll go with that. 2 teaspoons each of chili powder and cumin. 1 teaspoon each of kosher salt and smoked paprika. Got my salt right there. 1/2 teaspoon each of black pepper and red pepper flakes. Black pepper. No, I literally just said that I follow the recipe exactly, but instead of the red pepper flakes, I'm gonna be using a little bit of chipotle pepper. It's going to add a nice smoky flavor and still give me that spice that I'm looking for. And then finally, a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro. This is way more than a 1/4 cup, but I'm also gonna be putting this in some guacamole later, and we can use it to top our fajitas if we also want that. Now let's start with our liquids first. I'm gonna open this can of pineapple juice and get that measured out. And if I don't quite have enough liquid, it's fine. I've got plenty of limes to make up for it. Last time I tried marinating fajitas and it was really limey, I only used lime juice. So I think the sweetness of the pineapple juice will really help kind of mellow that out, and also the extra acidity from the pineapple and the lime will both help me tenderize the meat a little bit. I am going to be using a skirt steak, which is a little bit of a cheaper cut of meat, and they tend to be tough if you're not careful, so that should kind of help out there. Almost got a 1/2 cup, it's so close. All right, I'm going to call that good. Wipe up my mess real quick. And I'm gonna dump these pineapple tidbits into a plastic bag and save them. Actually, I'll probably keep them in this can, put them in the fridge, and then we'll have them later for dinner. Next, it's time to get our limes ready. I always like to roll my citrus to break the membranes on the inside and kind of release their juices a little bit easier. And for this, I need 1/3 cup. So right now I've got a 1/2. So I'll do in between the 3/4 cup and the 1 cup. If you have a hard time finding pineapple juice, I bet you could also use orange juice, and that would be really good too. I do want to make a note that the recipe makes a note, don't buy pineapple juice, or if you're going to use orange juice, get one that has no sugar added. Alright, there's 1 lime done. Let's see. Well, I might actually only need 2. That's fine, because again, I'm gonna need lime juice for my guacamole later, and I really love putting some lime juice on top of my tacos or fajitas or whatever we're having, so we'll have plenty. And they last for quite a while in the fridge. These 2 limes are pretty old already. That's why I wanted to use them first. That lime was a little bit harder, so I'm gonna do 1 more. You can tell it's not lime season anymore, and one of those limes I must have bought during lime season, because that was really juicy and easy to squeeze. Alright, let's see how that looks. So when you're measuring your liquids, you always want to get eye level with the, I believe it's called meniscus. It's the bottom line. Let's see if I can zoom in here. You see how there's a little bit of a thin white line of bubbles? From the bottom of that is where you want to look. So I will go ahead and get this dumped into a gallon-sized bag and get the rest of my ingredients ready. The next thing I'm gonna do is get my garlic ready. So I'm gonna kind of just guess how much garlic I'm gonna need for a tablespoon. And if I have over that, then great, because we really like garlic in this house. It's great for you, helps lower cholesterol. Some people are allergic, and I understand that, so if you know of a good garlic substitute, feel free to use that, but we are garlic people in this house. All right, I'm gonna start with this. I learned recently that they actually have pre-peeled garlic in the store, so you can just reach your hand into the jar. I knew that they already had pre-minced garlic, but I'm really trying to get away from using pre-packaged and pre-processed ingredients. For one, they're more expensive, and with the cost of groceries going up right now, I'm trying to save money wherever I can. Also, in all honesty, we don't really know the processes that go into processing those ingredients. So while it may just be simple peeled garlic, do they, add in preservatives to keep it fresh longer? Or, all kinds of things. Do they add extra sugar? I mean, maybe not for the garlic, but for a lot of foods that you wouldn't necessarily think have sugar in them. Sugar is a preservative, and so there are a lot of things that have added sugar that don't necessarily need them. And I'm just really trying to get into the habit of growing from fresh ingredients when I can. I've got a garden going out back, and I'm really trying hard to learn how to be successful at gardening so I can eventually grow and produce my own food. We have plans to get chickens in the future. We're still kind of up in the air as to whether or not we want to get meat birds or layers, because we do have a limited amount of space in the backyard, so we're probably going to have to choose for right now. And I feel like, economically speaking, we eat a lot more chicken than we eat eggs, but we're still kind of deciding that. Sorry, my pets are going a little crazy. My cat wants outside. All right, that looks like just a little bit more than a tablespoon. I bet it's maybe a tablespoon and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and get this added to our bag. Hang on, cat, I'll let you out in a minute. All right, I'm gonna pause right here and let her out, and then we will go ahead and keep going with our spices and everything else. Well, it's a good thing I took a pause, because I realized while I was walking by that I almost forgot to put the ingredient that I wasn't sure about in. So let's go ahead and get that in. I am definitely going to measure because I don't want to overdo it. And it's gonna be 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Now I'm really getting pretty low on olive oil, so I'm gonna finish off what I have, and if I need to supplement with some vegetable oil, I can do that. But the olive oil is much more rich in flavor, which I'm assuming is probably why they're recommending us to use that. So let's see how much of this I actually have. Not quite 1. All right, so I'll do, well, okay, got stuck on the cap a little bit. So there's 1. All right, I got 2 tablespoons of olive oil out of that. I'm gonna go grab my regular vegetable oil real quick. And we're gonna finish off the oil with this. This will help our meat keep our meat from drying out. Now I believe all we need is the cilantro and the spices. I'll go ahead and measure my spices out. All right, we need 2 teaspoons each of chili powder and cumin, and if you want to add more, definitely do that. I have a feeling we're probably going to want more, but like I said before, I'm going to try and follow the recipe as close as I can the first time. This is chili powder. That's not a big deal. They say you shouldn't measure over what you're adding things into, but I break that rule all the time. 2 teaspoons and a little spill of chili powder. Cumin. These are the 2 in my opinion, most important seasonings if you're gonna be making Mexican food, besides garlic and onion powder, but these are really where that feeling comes from. Looks like I'm gonna need some more cumin soon. Again, not a huge deal. I kind of had a feeling we were gonna want extra anyway. There's 2 teaspoons of chili powder and cumin. Next we need 1 teaspoon each of paprika and salt. I'll do salt first. This one is a little bit more risky. I might measure not over my bag here. So I do not want it to be too salty. All right, 1 teaspoon and paprika. I'm not super worried about overdoing this one either. This is already smelling really good. And then half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes and black pepper. I'm just going to freshly grind some black pepper in here. I'm not going to measure it because that's a hassle when you're using one of these things. Okay, it's probably about good. And then the chipotle chili pepper is pretty spicy, and while it says to use a half a teaspoon, I'm gonna use a 1/4 teaspoon. I think that'll get us there on the spice, and I just wanted to add a little bit of extra smokiness. It smells so good. All right, let me get this mixed up really well before I add the cilantro, because I don't want that to get stuck all on the sides. You can see my pepper has kind of already gotten a little bit stuck. Let me get my paper towel ready to dry it. I'm gonna rinse this off really quick before I chop it. All right, my cilantro has been rinsed. I'm gonna get this really dry so I don't water my marinade down more than it already is. All right, this might be a little bit more than a 1/4 cup, but I'm not super worried about it. It's gonna impart a little bit of fresh flavor, but I don't think very much of it will be stuck to the meat when we end up cooking it, because we'll probably be able to get most of that off. Right, I'm gonna get this tossed into my bag. Get this mixed up one more time really well. And I think all that's left to do is to add the meat into my bag. So let me go ahead and grab that out of the fridge. And just to make sure that the marinade is really getting into the meat well, I'm gonna poke this all over with a fork. The recipe doesn't say to do that, but I'm just gonna do that. And then I'll get that added to my bag. This is pretty minimal, but it is increasing the surface area for which the marinade is in contact with the meat. If you wanted to score it with a knife or something like that, that would pretty much accomplish the same purpose. I just want to make sure I'm getting as much of the marinade onto the meat as I can, because it's going to help tenderize it, it's going to help keep it juicy, and obviously I think probably what most people are focused on is the flavor. Alright, let's get this added. I want to make sure that I completely cover the meat with the marinade, at least if I can get a little bit of the spices onto all of it. That's great. Get this out of my way here. Alright, I'm going to give this a close so I don't lose any of my juice here, and then I'm going to really make sure I'm covering all of the areas I want to get in that crack that was in the back. This is looking pretty good. And then the recipe says to marinate for 2 to 4 hours, or ideally overnight. We are not going to be waiting overnight, but I am going to be giving it at least about 2 hours. And then about 30 minutes before you're ready to cook it, take it out of the fridge, let it come up to room temperature, and it'll be ready. I'm gonna put this in my fridge, and then I'll be back in a few hours to chop up the veggies that we're gonna also cook with the fajitas, and I'll show you probably a few clips of my husband cooking out on the grill.
While the meat's on the grill, I'm gonna go ahead and get my veggies sliced up. I'm not gonna chop them this time because I don't want them to fall through the grate that we have. We're actually using a kind of like a grill pan. It's got holes in the bottom to allow for smoke and heat to penetrate, but I'm just leaving everything in strips this time. I was not super impressed with the bell pepper choices at my store. They were pretty old looking. You can tell that the red one already had started to sprout some of the seeds inside, but the skin was really kind of wrinkly and they were just soft, and luckily it was fine because I was using them the same day that I bought them, but I could have done with some crisper vegetables. Something that I didn't film but I wanted to make a note of is once I got all my vegetables sliced, I added some chili powder, cumin, and a little bit of salt and pepper and some vegetable oil. Next, I'm just going to crush some garlic cloves. I'm not actually going to mince them for the same reason that I didn't dice the vegetables. I'm just crushing them to kind of start releasing the oil from them, and I'm just chunking the whole garlic clove in with the rest of the vegetables. Time to get everything on the grill.
Put them in oil?
A little bit.
This looks good already.
And while the meat's on the grill, I'm gonna go ahead and get my guacamole ready. So I'm gonna start by cutting my avocados in half, removing the pit, and getting those mashed up in a bowl. Next, I'll add some freshly minced garlic, some salt, and some lime juice. Lastly, I'm going to add a little bit of cumin, and notice how I was talking about the cilantro earlier and I totally didn't add it into this guac. Finally, the meat's ready. He was aiming for a medium rare, and I'd say he was really successful at that, although I would make a note that in the case of fajitas for skirt steak, we probably should have gone ahead and cooked it until it was well done. It was delicious, but it was just a little bit on the chewy side. I will give this marinade a giant 2 thumbs up. Look at those beautiful vegetables. I hope that you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed dinner. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, let me know in the comments, and if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe for some more of my future videos. See you next time. Bye guys!